I chose System to host my course because it gave me the most freedom in trying to create the experience that I'm trying to create for my clients. I still can't keep my clients inside the platform because it just isn't built to do the work of a full learning journey, right? I'm Dr. Katrina Misham, and I've been designing and redesigning courses online since 2009. So just like every other video, I'm doing a brain dump lesson that has 3 paths, things that they need to turn into me, and clear next steps. Same lesson, every platform. Okay, so because System.io is where I have my course, probably going to be able to tell you a little bit more about it. So you do get 1 free course. As you can see, I have 1 in there. You get unlimited students, no transaction fees. This is really kind of a no-brainer for validating ideas. When I first got started, I did have a little bit of trouble with figuring out where to find the course button, but it is under assets, and you click on courses, and this is the page, right? And so it's really easy to click add a new course. You can select a theme, you can name it, you can select the domain that it is under, and you get a lot of choices in terms of the theme, which are basically the colors that it's going to auto apply to your course. So not a whole lot of choice, right? But there are options in terms of trying to make it easy to get started. So we are going to go ahead and hop into the course that already exists. As you can see, I've got a bunch of stuff in here already, clearly. Okay, so the course builder itself is pretty straightforward. This will start empty, and you will be able to add modules. It will always be down here in the add module, and you just give it a name. So you'll see under the new module, it says testing. There are a few features or settings for each module. So you can create a quiz that is at the module level. And then the settings are basically just the name and choosing the sales page that will attach to that particular module. So you could sell modules on their own as well. So then you're going to start adding lessons. So you name the lesson, and then you select a template. They have 3 templates here. You can start with a template. I think it forces you to start with a template, but once we get in there, I'll show you how you could just tear everything apart. I'm going to select this one since we're working with video. I like to enable comments, and then you can set a number of days to delay this particular lesson coming out once someone gets into the module. So I'm going to go ahead and save it, and then I'm going to pop in to the lesson and show you kind of what you have as a starter and then what you have to build from. So the template I chose, I know has a video, it has a headline, it has text, there's a bunch of pieces and parts in here. I tend to come in and just delete everything, honestly, because I can drag and drop all of the things I need from the left-hand side. So for a video, I would click the video that pops up. This is if I drag and dropped the video into here, this is what would show up. I can do a direct link. That's what's here already. I can also select a custom embed, so I could use the embed code instead, or I can upload a file. It just really depends on how you like to do it. And then all of the settings for the video are in here as well. So I can do autoplay. I can let the controls show. That's what I tend to do because I just put my YouTube links in here. So the other things I can do in here are drag and drop pieces. So I'm just going to scroll to the bottom and start adding things. So I can add a whole other section. Basically, the system works in terms of columns and rows. And so each thing becomes its own row. This blue box is a row, considered a row, and it's a 2-column row. And then I can put things in that container, which can take a little bit getting used to, but it really is giving you a place to drag and drop all of the bits and pieces. And you can do that anywhere in here, right? So I've got my headline. I'm going to make a 3-column row, and I want to put some buttons in there, button in that one. Maybe I want to put an image in that one. And so you can see you could put anything into these spaces, and the rows and columns just let you tell the system where on the page you want those things to live in relation to the other pieces and parts. So you can include text headline, bulleted list, a content box. This is how you're organizing the page. You can include buttons, images, videos, audio, carousel, social button, a share button, and then a few other things. So you do have raw HTML here, an FAQ section. I can show you what that looks like. So there are options for how you want your page to look. That is one of the reasons why I selected it. It's not perfect, but it gave me a lot more control than some of the other tools. Okay, for the sake of time, I went ahead and already created another lesson where we're going to try to dump the things in based on what I've done before. So I'm just going to do some copying and pasting of my brain dumping lesson. So I am trying to answer 3 questions. I'm trying to answer whether or not we can track something other than video watching in the system. I'm asking whether or not we have different student pathways, and I'm asking how much friction there is for clients to be able to actually do the work. So because I've, got headlines and things set up, I am copying and pasting things over a little bit differently than I would. I'm not just selecting the whole page because it will come over and look super funky. And now that I've copied things over, you can see on this left panel, this is where I can do things like control the font size. I can decide on the font. So the whole course is Nunito Sans, but I can select other fonts and have a little bit more control, sizing and positioning, those kinds of things. So the lesson that I'm trying to pull in does have 3 different pathways that I want folks to choose from, right? They don't have to do all of them. And this is the one that I've been using because it tends to cause the most problems in terms of pathways. And so there is no way, just like with many of the others, there is no way to really separate out, the different lessons. So my lessons or lectures just keep adding up as I add them. There's no way for me to say, show this one to this person and show that one to that person. You can create drip access and that's about it. So I am going to go ahead and show you my solution to that problem because I do have 3 pathways. Okay, so this is the lesson that we're in. And what makes this another reason why I picked this platform in particular is that you can make any item kind of an anchor on a page, right? And that's where the benefit of this kind of being almost like a website page builder that's interactive, because down at the very bottom it says advanced HTML attributes, and there is an attribute here that I can copy, and I can go up to my button and I can put the hashtag with that URL. And so it's made it so that I can build the entire pathway within one lesson. Now, it took me a couple of tries to get to that being the best way for folks to move forward. And it is still not exactly perfect. But that really is the only other workaround. Otherwise, I'm in the same boat as I have been with many of these reviews where I'm having to create a different lecture for each pathway, and then they just select based on that. But that can get clunky and it can make a course look more bloated than it actually is and kind of changes the whole structure. So I am going to give that a conditional pass because it is something that you can do. It is a creative workaround, but it does work well on the student side too, which I'm going to show you. So if I click path 2, it pops me right down to path 2. But this is going to actually bring me to answering question 1 because there's not a whole lot of options in terms of assignments. So something that you can do at the lesson level is you can add an assignment for specific lectures. So if I do create an assignment, I can title it. So I might title this one Path 1, and this is where I would put my instructions. So we're in the same boat again where I can make it mandatory to unlock the next lecture, but if we're doing this in a pathway, I won't be able to skip between different pathways. And then I can activate the assignment and then I will save it and I'll show you how that shows up. So under the brain dump test, you'll see the assignment is over here. So it tells me I have an activated assignment. As a designer, there's not really any other way to see that. So if I jump back into the brain dump testing space, there is no, I can't see the assignment instructions from here at all, which is a little bit clunky. I have to keep going into the settings and do edit the assignment for this lecture. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at what this piece looks like on the student side of things. So you can see my video is the same, the things that I had, I didn't really change much in here, right? And so this is still just the same lesson, and when I mark it as complete or click on the assignment, then I can see the assignment, right? So we are looking at the assignment still being separated from any of the other information. It did hold all of the instructions, which is nice. And then as a student, I can upload things or drag and drop things. There's no place to actually just like put the things. I have to do it separately and then submit it here. And then I would be able to submit the assignment. Okay, so I did go ahead on the student side and submit an assignment just so we could look at and answer the tracking question. So I do have to be outside of the course to look at this. That means that if you have more than one course, the assignments are going to show more than one assignment. So we can see the student name is me, what course they were in, the module, and then what the lecture assignment was. So here we can see my options are, like there's nowhere else to click on here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and reject it, and I'm going to see what's on the other side. While it doesn't necessarily look like you can go back and forth, you can. It's just in a weird way, right? So like I can reject the assignment and give it certain, feedback, but that does mean I've rejected it. It does give them an opportunity to resubmit it, but there's no like back and forth without this weird like rejection. And I'm not sure that's not the word I would choose. And I'm not sure how like students would take that. I don't think I would use that feature to do this. I would find another way. Okay, so this just tells me like one by one what assignments were done in order to see kind of completion. Okay, so I have narrowed it down so that all we can see in here is me. And we can see my progress. So I've done 3% of the course. When I went in there and tried to submit that assignment, I did click complete on something and then submitted it. So that's 3% of the course. There's nothing else for me to look at in terms of tracking. I can delete myself under students, but that is it. So we can kind of manually track that assignments are being done here. There's no tracking built into the process. So we can't really see a whole lot, right? Like we don't get this differentiation between just clicking complete and actually submitting the assignment. When I clicked reject, I did get a notification in my other email address that the assignment for the brain dump lesson in CourseMaker has been rejected. It had the feedback. It's letting me click on, and so we'll take a quick look at that. So what it is doing is it's dumping me back in the lesson itself. And then down here, you can see the assignment rejected. If I click on that, it's giving me the instructions, and then it's just saying that it was rejected. The instructor feedback is here. I just wrote feedback. So I can select to submit a new assignment. So that is a way to kind of do some back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and submit something and see what that looks like. So it does keep a running tab of however many times we go back and forth with submitting the assignment. I still stand by like that rejected language is problematic. I can approve this submission, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I can give feedback on an approved submission, which is nice. And then we should be able to go see that on my end of things. So I am back on the student side, and so you can see the assignment has been approved. We come down here and you can see the feedback that I gave when I was being the teacher. The progress though is still at 3%, which is interesting because if in theory they are actually doing work and getting better at an activity, the tracking is a little bit weird. Okay, so in order to really determine whether or not the assignments are being tracked in the progress, I went ahead and did a little experiment. So I went in and just clicked mark as complete on a whole bunch of stuff. And we can see that brought my progress up to 14%. So now I'm going to go ahead and submit another assignment that I created and see what that does. Okay, so I had gone ahead and created 3 additional assignments because that percentage was not moving. And so now I'm going to go ahead and let's approve them just to make sure that is not going to impact completion. Okay, so I created 3 assignments, submitted and accepted all 3 assignments, and that percentage didn't move. Now, when I went in, I clicked mark as complete on 4 lessons, and it jumped from 3% to 14%. So I'm going to say that this fails question 1. You cannot track anything but the mark this complete in the progress bar, even though assignments and quizzes are now part of the platform. Now, to be fair, I didn't test a quiz. I'm not going to test a quiz. It's only in there as a closed-ended questions. And so it wasn't really worth trying out for me. So with the way that System.io structures its modules and kind of lectures or lessons or whatever you want to call them, it does kind of give you the 2 levels. And so I have the option of either creating different paths and making modules really the steps, right? You can see the size of this course. I don't really want to do that. That would kind of make it overwhelming. And so I had done the building the path within a single lecture. And on the learner side of things, it actually does work very well. So if I'm down here and I read this and if I want to watch the video, and I might choose path 3 and I get down here and I've got my video or audio or transcripts. And then this is where the workbook is done. So even though it fails in being able to track things and the pathways are not inherent in the tool, you can build them. So there is a creative workaround that doesn't take as much gymnastics as some of the other platforms, because it's just a matter of grabbing the anchor on the page and building in the right buttons. So it gets a conditional pass on pathways because it is one of the easier ones to do the workaround. Once they hit that mark as complete down at the bottom, then it really is marked as complete. You won't be missing kind of check marks, even if you didn't do all of the paths. Okay, so the third and final question is about click steps or friction. So even with the assignments, we do end up with a lot of friction in here, right? So I've got a step that's got video, right? We can stay in the platform to watch all of these things. The transcript does take you out because it is a link. And then I have other things linked out because to me, the assignment option isn't really good enough. I also like to give folks some interactive checklists so they can make their own copy and they can actually check boxes off, right? That can help them keep track of the things that they're doing. And then a feedback request, right? And this gives me an easier way to give feedback because I can give feedback in ways that aren't just text-based. And so for me, I've made a form in order to be able to do that. So there is a bit more clicking, right? So they're consuming the information in the platform and then doing the work in the workbook that is not on the platform, which is more than I would like. And then the feedback request is an additional click step. So there is friction inherent in this. If the assignments themselves worked all right in here, we would still have that extra click, right? So it's not a catastrophic friction, but it does mean that if they want to look at the content at the same time or listen to the content at the same time that they're doing the work, that they're going to have to either have 2 screens open or it makes it so it's not quite as mobile friendly as I would like. It also makes it so that there is extra clicking, right? They can't do the work all in the same space and be able to do it in the way that they need to, right? So we're going to give this one another conditional pass, just because the friction is there. It's just not as much of a deal breaker. And I only know that because my clients have been have been doing this in here, right? So all of my modules have a separate book. I call it the Get Shit Done book. And so they get to make their own copy of it and then do the work directly in here. So there is one for each module, right? And so it does mean click steps. So my clients are going outside of the platform and doing all of this amazing work and sharing it with me in other places and spaces. And I'm giving them feedback and we're having conversations about it. And the platform has no idea, right? It is literally just counting that mark as complete. Okay, so now we're going to run the platform through Successible. So I am in the outline page and I ran it and found 13 issues. They are all poor color contrast and they're all things like the buttons, right? The things that obviously I can't control. When I open up a module and I run the accessibility check again, I find even more poor color contrast issues. And again, these are all related to the things that are already built into the platform. Okay, in here at the lesson level of things, I ran a accessibility check again and 12 issues were found. This alt text is actually the system logo down here. Then their poor color contrast, again, are things that I can't control. These are all buttons within the navigation. And then missing captions. Now this one is interesting because it is on the content, but these videos are captioned through YouTube. And so I'll show you when we look on the other end of things, they are showing up as critical issues. But some of this I have already anticipated, right? And so there is no transcript for the audio, but I have a transcript linked out below. And all of my workbooks also include me pulling the transcript, cleaning it up, and that is the instructions in the workbook itself. So this is the preview mode. When I do the Successible check, we found 16 issues. The alt text one went away because we don't see the system logo. There's some poor color contrast issues. Those are all in the theme. So this theme that system let me choose from is not accessible. And then my missing captions come up again. But I'll show you that.
Okay, as I mentioned in the overview, our first step is going to be brain dumping. And brain dumping is literally...
And then for all of the audios, the transcripts are a link out here. So I went ahead and went into the edit theme settings and it will let me do a custom theme. So I went ahead and changed to one of my brand colors and ran the accessibility check again. And now I have 0 poor color contrast issues. So that was something that I could control that I didn't realize was a problem before. So if you are interested in trying Successible out for yourself, the link is in the description. And so we always come back to the fit question. Does the platform fit what I'm trying to create or what I want to design for my course? Does it fit the course needs? Or am I using it just because it's what's available? I don't use any other part of system. I only use the course piece because that is what let me get the closest to the course that I had designed, the learning experience that I wanted to happen. So I designed this first, and then I picked system because it was honestly more control. Still end up sending my clients outside of the platform, but it's a much smoother process. So what system is good for? If you want to have more control over the structure, kind of a simple delivery, if you are looking to just test things out, right? That option of having the free course means that you can get folks in there and testing things to see what works and what doesn't without a real financial strain, then this will work for you. If you're trying to track activities within the platform or give feedback and have feedback loops, or if you are trying to keep learners inside the same platform for the entire experience, then it might not be a good option for you. The activity tracking and the feedback loops, those do have workarounds, and that's what I've already shown you, but it does mean leaving the platform for the experience. So you can do everything right and still hit walls. I started with what my course needed, what my clients needed, and picked this platform. This is why something different needs to exist. Not because system is a bad platform, because platforms are still built just for delivering information. If you are still trying to figure out what your course needs, sign up for my newsletter. The link is in the description. And next time we will take the same lesson, same 3 questions, different platform. We're going to focus on Podia. If it's not there, it'll be there next week.